Welcome everyone. My name is Cansu and I'm super excited to be here with you today. Um, I work at Red Hat as an AI consultant, meaning that my team and we help organizations, we help teams to use AI platforms and open source AI tools to solve real world problems, address their business challenges. I'm a very hands-on technical person and I hope to get you a little bit of hands-on today as well. So my talk is called as Open Source AI from Users to Makers. So I want to open up with talking about open source first. Like what is open source, why I love it so much, and why am I talking about it? And then I want us to discuss about like why open source matters in AI domain, especially today. And talk a little bit about open source ecosystem of today's generative AI's landscape, like what kind of tools and techniques are out there that we can use to make, basic smarter applications. So hope that sounds good to you. So let's get started. But actually, before we start, I have a little question for you, and you can use these like reaction buttons in Zoom, like with thumbs up and thumbs down, or drop some comments in the chat, if possible. So my question to you is, if you had the best chocolate cake recipe, would you keep it secret so only you can bake it, or would you share it freely so anyone can make it their way? So what do you think? Tell me what you think. Hmm? Cool. Oh, share it. Oh, keep it secret. Share it unless I'm Ryan Abiz. That's a great answer. Uh, well, you're also sweet. Definitely. So now that let's say you share your recipe and well, some might like bake it as it is, but some might get a little bit maybe creative, then like take your recipes and then add some little strawberries to it because they think it'll taste even better. Or some might make it vegan or add a little bit of a lemon twist, maybe throw some carrot cakes because I do love carrot cakes. And some maybe they might turn into cupcakes. And that's literally what open source is. Like instead of locking the knowledge away, we share it so that everyone can create it, customize, and innovate in their own way. But unfortunately, I am not in the business of making the best chocolate cake yet. But I am bringing you back to the computers and software world. And honestly, I'm not sorry because I love the software world as much as I love a cake. So what is open source software? It's a software that anyone can see, use, modify, and share. And guess what? It is literally everywhere. Like from the internet that you use to the phone in your pocket. So let's do a little bit of a game again. And again, I'll look at the chats and thumbs up, thumbs down you can use. I'll name some open source technologies, and I want you to let me know if you know about them, if you ever used them. So, okay, I'll start with Git. If you like writing software like me, if you like storing your codes, if you are, enjoying versioning your code, you've probably used Git. Git is completely an open source software. You can see how it is built, how it is made, instead of just using it. Linux is the next one. It is the best operating system in the world, and it is 100% open source. So it powers supercomputers, it powers Android phones. Every companies in the world almost they use Linux. Apache, do you know this logo? So have you ever visited a website on internet? There is a good chance that that website was served by using Apache. It is one of the most widely used open source web servers in the world. Wikipedia, that's an easy one, but that's not exactly a software, right? But it follows the same open source spirit. Anyone can contribute, anyone can access the information there. There is no information behind the paywall or secret or anything like that. I throw Python in here because since we are talking about AI here, Python is the programming language that you'll likely touch one way or another, completely open source. And Firefox. It is an open source web browser that basically letting you to explore the internet. The best part, you can take a look at how these tools are written. You can modify them and even improve them if you want. That's the magic of open source. It belongs to everybody. So, little bit of sum it up for the key principles of open source. It's quite simple. It's free to use, it is modifiable, and it is shareable. And speaking of sharing, you see that little guy hovering down there? That's the Perseverance rover from NASA. And did you know that NASA used Linux and open source software to get to Mars? Like, let me ask you this now. Do you think we would have made it to Mars if the knowledge was locked away? If it was up to just NASA to figure some things out instead of like people and community already using all those softwares and already improving it? It wouldn't be that soon, I think. But let me tell you why I really, really love open source. And it's not just because it's not just about the free software. It's literally about accessibility, flexibility, and driving innovation, which brings me to the values of open source. As I said, open source is not just about the technology. It's about people working together collaboratively to build something greater than themselves. Like open source is like this movement that powered by collaboration and shared responsibility and like openness. And I believe that this is exactly what you are going to experience during the hackathon. Like a group of people come together to build and improve and support a project, whether it's an AI related or some other software related, or it doesn't have to be a software related. It could be something creative, different type of project. But it's type of a working environment where there is no boss, like everyone helps in different way to the best of their abilities. Whether it's coding, it's designing, testing, sharing ideas, as the people contribute, the project gets better. And that's why I love open source, because it's not just about writing the code, it's about building something together, innovating together, and making a real impact. And you might thinking that like that's great, like open source sounds great, but why are you talking about open source? Well, because I love it, as you probably guessed by now, because I truly believe in the power of open source, and because that I happen to work for a company that's actually provides open source products to the companies, to the organizations. So if you go back to the cake analogy, you can think Red Hat as a bakery. Like what we do is that we take the best open source recipes, we experiment, we improve them, we make sure that they work perfectly at scale, and then we deliver a high quality, reliable cake. Sure, you can make your own cake from scratch, right? Because it's free, recipes out there, you share it. But it might take some time, it might require some skills, it might require some tools to get it right. So sometimes it is just faster and easier to go to a bakery that has already perfected the cake. But wait, if the recipe is free, why would anyone pay for it? Like, how does Red Hat make money from open source? Something that we hear quite a lot. You can think of as like you are kind of paying for the future of the cake, because we put a lot of effort into baking new cakes, improving the flavors, like making sure the recipe works for everyone. So when companies using Red Hat services, they are actually supporting the future of open source software. They are actually ensuring that our developers can keep building and securing and innovating. You can also think about that like you're paying for some kind of a professional cooking lessons. Like we don't sell the cake, right? Red Hat doesn't sell the cake. The recipe is always out there, but we help you to bake it better for your own needs, for your own organization, own requirements. So companies usually pay for like support and security and maintenance, some expert trainings so that they can use open source with confidence. So as a company, we work in the open source ecosystem. Whatever we build, they're out there for everybody to see, use, contribute, improve. We all truly believe the power of open source. And we believe that it's essential that we build AI using the open principles, using the same mindset, like with the same community that brought all these like innovative technologies such as like cloud computing, the internet, the Linux, like all these powerful and deeply innovative technologies, we believe that AI follow the same principles. So why I do believe that open source is so important for AI? Um, Truth is, the community or the industry haven't exactly settled on a definition of what open source AI really means. But here is my take on it, right? And why I think applying open source principles are like these values are critical to AI. One is that AI makes everything better. I'm sorry, open makes everything better. Open will make AI better as well. So open researches, open data set means that there's more collaborations, better, there are faster innovations out there. When more people contribute, AI improves as well. And I believe that AI shouldn't be a black box. Like when with open source, like anyone can inspect and audit and improve the models, making them more trustworthy and more reliable. Yesterday there was this talk about ethical AI, brilliant talk. Like if you haven't had the chance to watch it, make sure that you make some time to watch that. So they were mentioning about that, how AI learns from the data, and if the data is biased, then your model will be, biased as well. So if only a few people control the data, then biases can creep in easily. But with open data, where everyone can contribute, where we get more fair and diverse and more representative AI. For example, these like open data, like they're incredibly valuable in the medical field. Especially when it comes to improving the healthcare researches and diagnosis. For example, there is this data set that publicly available. It's called the Cancer Genome Atlas. Like it's sort of a data that like thousands of people diagnosis and patients data, and making that available for researchers, for academics to work on to build a better like improving the models out there. It's gonna benefit everybody eventually. And lastly, AI is basic. AI is for everyone, not just for the big tech companies. So right now, building these like powerful AI models like that we interact, like ChatGPT, Gemini, and so on, it requires massive resources, like massive GPU resources, and something only a few big companies have at the moment. And those models, they will always have like an edge in the performance, like they will always perform amazingly. But open source, like bringing open source into AI is more about democratizing this access, like allowing people to run and experiment and like fine-tune models on their own devices without relying on big technologies, big tech companies. There are like open source tools out there, which we will talk a little bit about. And like there are tools like Olama, there are like quantized models, more efficient architectures that help us to bridge the gap, making AI more accessible, even on the lower end hardware like our laptops. So at its core, open source AI isn't just about the code. It's about making AI better and fairer and accessible to all. The more we share, the more we innovate, and that benefits for everybody. That's why I believe that open source is really important for AI. There is just a couple of examples that open source models that you might heard or you can interact with. So these models that for anyone to use, and if you want like improve, whether you want to generate images or like build chatbots or have your own AI assistant, these models can give you freedom of experiment and innovate. Like Stable Diffusion is great for image generations. Bloom is a perfect example of actual collaboration. It's built by over thousands of researchers from all over the world. There's Llama, Granite, Mistral. Those are like powerful language models that can power chatbots. And there is like, for example, Whisper is more speech to text model. So these models are out there, like these models are like out there for us to also like give it a try. So it is It is not just for these big companies to provide us something. We can also take these things and actually start building some smarter applications or like doing some experiments with them. But AI isn't just about models. It's about like what you do with them. So let's talk about like tools that make them even more powerful. So there's this open source AI tools like help us to actually, make AI smarter or like help us to collaborate or make them more reliable. Hugging Face, maybe you've heard of it, is this like open source AI, it's this open source platform that like let anyone to share and collaborate machine learning models. It makes AI more accessible and more community driven. I quite like it. There's Podman AI Lab, for example. It can help you to run the models in a container if you are into containers in your own machine. Anything LLM, completely open source tool that can run an AI chatbot on your local machines. But I want to bring our focus onto agentic AI framework, and not just because they've been the talk of this year, but also that they are here to address some of the challenges that we have around these large language models. And if you are like me, like to learn how these like challenges turn into innovations, how these how some companies basically address these challenges, and we have now more powerful large language models today, I think you will enjoy this one. So we're gonna talk about agents, and then I will share a couple of open source projects. I will do a little bit of demo, and then we will do a little bit of exercise together. So hope that sounds good to you. Okay, the limitations that I mentioned, for example, up until, to be honest, recently, if you are asking such questions to the chatbots out there, like on the internet, like will it rain tomorrow, it cannot answer to you because, as we said, that those models are bound to data. So they only know the information that from the data that they trained on. So they cannot talk about today or tomorrow. Or maybe they don't have the information, but they might hallucinate and give you some information without any source. Like how did they come up with that information, which is not super reliable or not up-to-date information. So agentic AI frameworks, agents come into the picture to address these challenges, and we will gonna see them how it is. So what an agent is, that it is more than a chatbot. It is like this intelligent system that can think, decide, and take action to complete a task. Unlike the regular chatbots that we interact, which what they do is that they predict the next word in the sentence. But an agent can plan its next step, use some tools, and then adapt based on what it learns. So what I mean with that? So let's say that you have this brain with our models, and you are going to tackle these sustainable development goals, right? So let's say that you are gonna focus on the environmental renewable energy side of things, and you wanna know today like how many coal power plants could be replaced with current renewable energy capacity. If you ask this to a chatbot, up until recently, it would answer something like, "Oh, it's hard to just provide you an exact number, but in general, like." Doesn't give you the exact answer that you are looking for. It gives you some ballpark numbers maybe, or some generic informations, because it doesn't have the current renewable energy capacity or how many coal power plants we have today. So how things can be today with these agentic framework developments, think about how you would address these questions. Like let's say that you are not using any chatbots, but you have an access to internet and you were asked to these questions, or you would like to know the answers for your research. What would you do is what I would do, I would go to Google and then like, ask the questions, probably end up with some Wikipedia articles and, some articles about the renewable energy, some articles about the coal power plants. And then I will try to extract the information that I need and come up with the answer. That's exactly what we are going to do in here. So you have Wikipedia. You can turn this Wikipedia actually into a tool. So you create a tool out of Wikipedia, basically how you access to Wikipedia. And then you can bind this to the model, which means that now the model knows about that it can talk with Wikipedia if it doesn't have the answer. So if it got the question, the very same question, now that what it can do is that it can formulate a query to Wikipedia. It can formulate something that Wikipedia can understand and then return an answer. So from the question, model can understand that it needs to know current renewable energy capacity. And then it calls the tool, invokes the tool, and then get the answer. So this is the think part of this. Like it think that it needs to get this answer. It needs to know the current renewable energy capacity, and it acts on it by talking with the Wikipedia and get the response as like the current renewable energy capacity worldwide is approximately something. And then based on that answer, because this wasn't your questions, you want to know how many coal power plants could be replaced with this energy. So it goes back to the tool, ask for the coal power plants, and then get this answer and do some calculation magic and give you the answer. So it thinks, actions, adapts based on what it learned from Wikipedia, and then basically try again until find your answer. Does that make sense? Does that sound powerful to you? And I think I can check the chat again with that. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay, so what I want us to do now, I want us to see this in a little bit of action with a more like low code, no code type example in the beginning. And I want to really bring you some different open source projects for you to see. So I created this GitHub repository. It's called Teens in AI under my name. And we're gonna, well, first let me get back to here. We are going to use these four different tools. One is Open Web UI, which is this user-friendly interface to interact with models, like chat with the models on our own laptop. We're gonna use Olama, which is an super easy to run. Like it helps us to run the AI models on our laptop very easily. Pydantic is this a framework that helps us to formulate this structured inputs and outputs. So what I mean with that, if you look at in here, I need to send a query to Wikipedia, but I ask, plain English. So Pydantic helps us to formulate this structure and then send the query to Wikipedia or whichever tool that we use. And as the model, as the brain, we will use the Llama 3B model that we can easily download and use. So for this one, what I suggest, just maybe follow me, because depending on your network connection or your computer's speed, like power, it might take some time for you to download the model and start running that. But what I've done is that in this Git repository, if you go to this weather tool example, this is what we are going to do now. I have step-by-step explanations so that you can do it on your own time, when you have time. Like if you follow this one by one, it's gonna work. And I'm going to now run this one by one to you. The second one you can do it as well because we're gonna use the Google Colab. So I'm gonna switch a couple of screens now because I need a terminal to download these tools. And then I'm gonna, access to the Open Web UI and start interacting with the model. So the first thing that we'll do is, I hope that this is visible. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure if, why I cannot write in here. Oh, that's interesting. Hold on. Okay, that's the first time that I've seen Zoom just pop up and cancel. Okay, so the first thing that we do is that we create our own Python working environment to make things more clean and more structured. So we have our own Python environment when I will activate it. And the first thing that we do is that we install Open Web UI by using pip install, or there is any other Python package manager you would like to choose. That's also perfect. Things are going to be a bit faster because I downloaded them beforehand, so we don't spend too much time with those things. And then it's like a matrix, that's black and green. So open a web UI, I deploy it, and then I am going to serve it, which means that I am starting this web UI. While this is happening, I am going to open another tab, and I'm going to start the Olama one, which is going to which is going to serve my model. So I'm gonna again activate the same Python environment. I am going to do pip install Olama. Done, and then I'm gonna do Olama serve. Okay, so this is going to serve the model. And now that the Open Web UI is running, it says like go to this endpoint because it is locally. It's not like a web page that have full qualified name. And then the model is in here. I'm just going to go to this one, HTTP 8080. So I'm going back to my browser now. I'm just gonna type it. It's working. It knows that there's a Llama model in the back. And now let's ask that, let's first make sure that it is working. So let's ask, what is the SDG? Maybe let's see if it knows about the sustainable development goals. It knows, and it works quite fast, actually. That's awesome. Okay, after it knows this, the simplest example to show that like how it doesn't have the current information is you can ask about the weather, basically. Like, what is the weather like today in Istanbul, which is where I'm from? Well, it says, I'm sorry, I'm a language model. I don't have real-time access to the current weather, but it gives me some, still try to be helpful. You can go there, you can look at these things, and you can, get the information. I'm going to rely on the open source community in here. I'm going to rely on the Open Web UI's community. And I know that they are building some tools, just like that Wikipedia in a box. I'm sure that there is something that helped me to fetch the current weather data. So if I go to Open Web UI tools, there is a heap of community that built a lot of tools to help actually to enhance large language model that to overcome this kind of challenges that are like not able to get the current information, not able to access somewhere to do something. So as you see that there are a lot of tools. So what I'm going to do is that I know that I need the weather information. And as you see, there are a number of people who are build some weather tools. So I'm going to pick the first one. And this is written in Python, which means that like it is open, it's out there. You can take it, you can use it. And if there's something that you would like to improve or like some ideas that comes to your mind, you can make that change as well. And the good part is that you can also contribute back. You can find this tool definition like wherever it is in which Git repository, and then you can actually contribute. Like you can tell this person, your weather API is great. Like whatever you build, it's great. I just think that if you change this, the performance will be better, and they will gladly accept it, and you would be, an open source contributor. For now, let's just use it and see how it's going to be. So I'm going to copy this code, going back to my Open Web UI. There is this workspace option in here, and there is tools. So there is a small plus button in here. I'm gonna, when I hit it, it's gonna offer me an example, but I want actually whatever I just copied. I want my LLM to access an weather API to get the current weather. So I'm gonna call this weather. And since I like things to be tidy, I'm gonna get this description in here, get the weather tool for a specific city, and put it into the tool description. and I hit save and confirm. So now when I try to, when I start a new chatbot, when I hit this plus button, it can see this tool, and I'm telling it, enable this tool. I want my large language model to be able to use this in case I ask a question that this tool can help. So I'm gonna ask the same question again. What is the weather like today in Istanbul? Oops, I made a typo, but it's smart enough to probably understand that. As you see that this time it says, according to the provided context, this is the date, this is the time, and this is the information that like it's the 35 Fahrenheit. And you can see that it used the tool. It knows that it doesn't have the answer. It goes to the tool. But the thing is that like Fahrenheit is not the I want to know this in Celsius, like maybe not in Fahrenheit. So I'll get the same question. I'll fix my typo. And I say, can you tell me in Celsius? So, oh, okay. So it says the context does not include information about the Celsius. Would you like to know how to okay, so it's telling me. I was hoping that it would actually do the conversion, but you get the idea. Apparently the endpoint only has the Fahrenheit. And these models that we use, they are not as powerful as like the ones that are out there because we don't have that computing laptop. So you'll see some differences in the answers as well. But I do hope that this kind of gives you the feeling of like what is an agentic system, what is tools, and how large language models use that, and how you can rely on like an open source tools to start experimenting and start building something on your own actually without doing much of coding. Let's see. Okay, the second thing is that this is where I want to introduce similar things, but more powerful. So weather was one thing, but I want to talk about how you can build your own research companion working on your own desktop or some environment like Google Colab where it provides more compute to you, but using with different tools at this time. So we're going to use Google Colab, and this time instead of like relying on Open Web UI, we're gonna do a little bit of more coding, and we're gonna use a LangGraph, which is a framework that helps us to build this type of smart step-by-step like workflows, like applications. And we're gonna create different tools this time, which is like one is DuckDuckGo, like Google search, easy to interact. So we're gonna use an internet search tool. We're gonna use Wikipedia API so that we can fetch some information from there. And then we're gonna use this Python execution environment because models can do some simple maths, but if you need something more advanced, what you can do is that you can ask the model to actually write the code and then execute the code and only return you to the answer. So this is quite powerful as well. So these Python REPL, these Python execution environment is quite helpful to solve the math problems. And for that, I'm going to go back to the GitHub repository again. I'm going to the first page. And in the second one, there's a link to open the notebook in Opening Colab. So when you click this one, which I'm gonna open in the different tab, it's gonna spin up to an environment if you have the Google account, I believe. And then you'll see that we're gonna use a T4. Oh, okay. So this account doesn't have that. So I'm gonna switch this environment. Sorry, I was gonna do that. So reconnect. So we're gonna use this T4 GPU, which is small enough, like it's good enough for what we would like to do. So now I have more powerful environment from what I had before. And again, if you cannot do it right now, this is open, it is there, and I put all the explanations like what each step are doing. And it is at the beginning, it is pretty much the same for what we've done. So what we are going to do is that we are going to install Ollama to run our models because it's quite easy really using Ollama to serve the model, to start interacting with model. So this shouldn't take so much time. So at the moment, it is downloading the Olama, and then we will start the Olama, and then we will start binding the tools to our large language models to be able to use those models. And by the way, I learned this trick right before coming to this talk. These cats, I saw it from Robert, who's gonna have the talk right after me. So it's really sweet. Look at these. Like for anybody who curious about this, it is under settings and miscellaneous. There's like corgi mode, there is crab mode if you wanna change. Let's try the crab mode. I think there will be some crabs running. Okay. In the meantime, there is this oh, that's so cute. They're like Olama deployed. So what we are going to do is we're gonna serve the start Olama just like we did on the command line, and then we're gonna pull the model. There are different models as well that can run on this T4 GPU, this environment. You can experiment with other models as well if you like. I just try to pick something that is good enough, but not too big to pull down so we don't spend too much time on these. So at the moment, we are pulling down the model, which is like 2 GB or something. Shouldn't be too much. Then we will install the libraries we need. We will import these libraries, and then we will do the magic. So, okay, cool. Let's install the libraries. As you see that we are deploying these like LangGraph and LangChain, and then DuckDuckGo search and some Wikipedia libraries, which is just deployed. I'm going down, 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 and I'm importing the libraries. And I am binding the tool. Sorry, I am instantiating the model. And now these are the places where I start defining the tools. But how would I know this? Like where these things are coming from? Again, like LangChain, open source, a good ecosystem. They have a huge tools that has been contributed from, people all over the world, companies from all over the world. And I wasn't particularly know how to actually invoke Wikipedia. So what I've done is that I came to this page, I searched for Wikipedia. Luckily it was there, and it is explaining to me what type of libraries I need, what I need to import, and what I need to put in order to actually have a Wikipedia tool. So you can rely on these like open source environments, and then since these have all like good communities behind, you can also have the conversations. If there is something is not working for you, you can reach out to them and ask for help, or if there's any improvement you want to bring to the documentation. It doesn't have to be just the code, but documentation is quite important as well. You can do this. So I did same thing for Wikipedia and DuckDuckGo search. I looked at them in the documentation, and this is the definition of the Python REPL execution environment, which is again provided by LangChain. These are like built-in tools. I didn't have to code anything, but I kind of annotated the tool saying that like you are here to do some calculations when needed, if needed, and you need to provide the answer for me. So I am defining this as well. So a list of tools I am given to the model, and this is where I am bind everything together. So this is exactly like what we discussed. So you have this large language model, like you have this agentic system, and you give them some tools. When you ask a question, if the model already knows the answer, it gives you the answer. That's ends. But if it doesn't know the answer, or if it thinks that using a tool is like better to get that answer, it uses the tool, get the answer, and evaluate and think if this is good enough answer, or if it needs to call another tool. So that's why the graph is like this. So either it knows the answer, or use some tools, think about it and act on it, and then make a plan should it respond to you or to another tool call. Let's go back to our examples again in the slides, like how many coal power plant could be replaced with current renewable energy capacity. Since these things are a bit deterministic, undeterministic, I do hope that it will give me the answer I saw yesterday. So cool. So what it does is that you see it calls Wikipedia because it doesn't have the answer. So it calls coal power plants that can be replaced with current renewable energy capacity, and then it comes up with some actually Wikipedia results. and then it reads that result, and then it gets back to you. In our case, semi-helpful, but but it does the thinking. So I put a couple of examples to show that how it calls out different tools, or maybe chain the tools, like it gets some answer from DuckDuckGo, then runs some Python execution code. Let's give one or two examples again. So I have another example. What was the first video game console's processing speed, and how does it compare to the current CPU usage of my system? So it needs to know the first video game console processing, which it goes to. It looks at Wikipedia, it looks for DuckDuckGo, but then it also requires to run some commands in my own system so that it can figure out my current CPU usage. So it changes some tools. It runs one, get an answer and think about it, then run another tool, get an answer and think about it. And then it kind of gives you that. Basically it gives you that the first one was 1 megahertz, your usage is this and that, and I'm going to give you the answer. So there are a couple of examples that I put here. You can also, if you want that, you can just copy these cells or like create another example, or that you can just change these user query to ask any questions you want. All you need to do is just to go to the Colab and then run these cells. Make sure that you have a T4 environment. So this is like one of the ways to show you like quick and dirty how we can do these things. One challenge that I can give you is that there are a number of tools in here. Like there are, for example, a medical publications tool that can go PubMed and search for all these like papers about medical researches, some latest researches. I want like you can try to add another tool to the list by following this documentation, by looking at these codes and then asking some questions around the more medical stuff. So before I finish the hands-on part of this, what I would like to share you, because the reason that I'm giving you a challenge is that in this Git repository, I created these discussions. So one is for the weather example, and the other is for the research companion. So what I want you to do is that join these discussions, share what you've done, share if you did any modification and improvements, or like if you have any challenge, or like if you blocked in something, just share it. And there will be other people, there will be myself that's gonna help you, just we're gonna have the conversations and we're gonna make things better together. So we're gonna collaborate in open, and that's literally what the open source is about. So make sure that you come here and like test these, go through these examples, and then share your experience, share your improvement ideas. Let me know if you could add another tool to the list, and then, work out with that. So to sum it up, why I am, sorry, excuse me, why all these methods, why I am talking about open source, why I am showing all these open source tools, because it's obvious that AI is shaping the future, but who gets to build that future? Like with open source principles, the answer is all of us. It's you, it's us. It's not just about using AI, but it's about creating and improving and making it accessible to everyone. And as you've seen today, that these like with open source, open weight models and these like tools and approaches like agents, it allows us to experiment, like all of us, build something meaningful and help us to, open us way to contribute to this movement. And whether you are coding or like you are doing researches or you are just curious about AI, I hope that you walk away knowing that you have the power to be a maker, not just a user in this thing. And it is all this domain is totally open for you to explore. So go out there, just experiment and build and contribute and let me know how you do this. All right. So thanks for listening.
Hi, Cansu. Thank you so much for your presentation. We have already so many questions from our audiences. So one of our audience is asking, is DeepSeek AI by China is an open source code?
So they opened how they how they built the models. That's why I said that like the community or the industry hasn't exactly settled on what is open source, because they settled the approach, they shared the approach, they shared the code, but the data is so massive data is not out there. So usually you hear that open weight AI concept more than open source, but what they've done is that when they released the paper about how they actually, build that reasoning model, it actually helped a lot of people to, learn the new techniques, learn new features. So in the heart of that, I think it's like the principles are there, but completely open source, that is still like a little bit up in the debate, unfortunately.
Our audience is asking, where can I get Python?
Oh, I put that link in the GitHub repository. In the first example for the weather tool, the first step is that if you don't have Python, go to this link and download based on whichever operating system that you need, that you are using. So you can find from there.
Thank you so much. How do open source AI projects typically handle data collection, especially in ensuring data quality, diversity, and compliance with privacy regulations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And most of these models are like they share what type of data that they have, but they don't. Not all of them share all the data that they have. So it is quite tricky because most of these companies buy licensed data in order to train their models, so it is not possible for them to open that. But you kind of have the good faith sometimes that they are using the publicly available data, and then if they are using the licensed data, they are paying for the loyalty and following the rights regulations to do that. So those things are like still forming, still deciding. United European Union, for example, are looking for this domain a lot at the moment, like building some regulations around that. So it is quite challenging, especially like today, where everybody wants to get into this game and like building the next powerful models, and these regulations are gonna help us to figure these things out.
What is CVV and what is open source? Can you clarify that for our audience again, please?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure about CVV, but well, open source is basically like having this software like out there, like where you can see how it is built, what kind of code that is like entail that. Like let's say that you are using Git, but what you do is that you download the Git as a command line and you start using that. But if you search for it, you can see what actually makes up Git, like what kind of source code behind in order to build that tool. And making it open source is that everyone can use this, everyone can see that. And if you want that, you can also, just take it and modify it for your own needs, or you can improve it and then contribute it back to make it better for everybody. And that's basically open source.
Thank you. We're going to move to the next question. Is Python the only programming language that can be used for open source AI?
Oh no, 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 definitely. Like there is also R, for example, R language that you might hear. It is more on the data analytics side, but my sister, she's a data analyst. She uses R a lot, so I learned a little bit from there. But it is not just Python. But most of the time, you'll see that the data scientists people are using Python to build the models. But the environment changes a lot because now that these models are very accessible, you don't have to build the model, but you build these like surrounding, you start building applications around the models, like these smart AI research companion. And it doesn't have to be Python. You'll see that there is this, for example, agentic system. There is this JavaScript framework that is called B from IBM. So different tools are coming. There is also the Java Marcus, I forgot name, but there's also some Java world is coming to this domain as well. So it is evolving. But usually when you are building an AI model, 99% you'll see Python.
Are there any emerging trends in generative AI that we should be paying attention to?
So agents are super hype. That's why I wanted to talk about this. And then there is also this thing called Model Context Protocol. MCP is similar to agents that also enhance the model's capabilities, that help you to actually give more power to do things like access into some, I don't know, like access into some database, to insert something, going into some and like going to GitHub to raise some pull requests or things like that on behalf of you. So the other thing that I was thinking about which one I should talk, and agents seems like more popular these days. So there's one agent, and then there's the model context protocol. I would suggest you to look at.
Thank you so much. How can students or young professionals get involved in open source AI projects?
Well, the beauty of open source is that like it is driven by communities, and like there are a lot of communities that get together, whether like it's online or doing some meetups offline. Try to follow those things and try to join them, and that they usually have good some mentorship programs as well, where they're like more experienced and senior people can help, can kind of like take you along when they are building something and teach you this ways. Check out these like meetups on your city, in your country, if there's anyone that you can join. Super welcoming environment. This is literally the reason that I fell in love with open source when I found out about the concept when I was a student. I started going into the events, and then I started meeting with people, and I learned with them. I grew up with them, and like any project that you are interested in, such as, for example, LangChain, LangGraph, you'll see that there are like discussions happening on the GitHub usually, or in some Slack channels or some Discords. Try to find those things and join that. And I bet you'll find your place and your favorite projects, and you know, some group of people that can help you to, you know, get into the project.
Thank you so much. I'm moving to the next question. According to CNN, China's AI DeepSeek claimed to be better than USA's ChatGPT. Do you agree with them?
There are benchmarks, like there are a lot of different benchmarks out there that doing these kind of a comparison based on the benchmarks. It seems like it is outperforming, but there are like different types of models. Like the DeepSeek's reasoning models is like really impressive. It kind of it explains you the thinking. Like, for example, when you're interacting with models online, like you ask a question and then you get an answer. This reasoning model, for example, it explains you how it, like it feels like it gives you the feeling of thinking. Like, oh, the user asked me this, so that like first I need to understand that. It probably asks like this and blah, like try to understand the background. And when you look at this, it's really impressive, like really give you the feeling that you are actually talking with a person. So according to some benchmarks, yes, like they are good. I enjoy experimenting with DeepSeek as well.
Thank you so much. Moving to the next question. What does the future of open source AI look like in the next 5 years, and how can we ensure it remains sustainable and community driven?
That's a great question. So it is like it is obvious that like these open source principles are needed in here, and companies like Red Hat, like us, and some others are really bringing their own experience in the open source for years into this domain. And I believe that the future is really open, and especially these like advancements in terms of the quantized models. Like what I mean is that, you know, taking those powerful models and make it able to run on the small hardwares, because the biggest challenge is that at the moment, because the reason that these like big models are kind of driven by the big companies is because they have the resources to that. Like they have the GPU, they have compute resources. But with the advancements on the open source environment at the moment, like anybody become to, you know, run and start working with these things. So there will be more and more people actually start getting in. There will be more and more people start to actually contributing, and with that things will start, you know, staying more open. People will demand it because otherwise they might not exactly trust it. So the open when I said that open makes everything better, is because that you are able to see what about it, like you can audit it, you can build a trust around it when you see that, you know, how this thing is getting built, and companies and people are asking for this. So that's why that I definitely believe that the future is open in AI as well. And there will be people like us making sure that this thing is going in the healthy direction. So,
Another question. What are the biggest challenges in ensuring ethical AI development in open source projects, especially concerning bias and transparency?
Yeah, that was it. Like the similar questions were asked yesterday as well in the ethical AI talks, and most of the concerns are around data because not all the data are out there. So and basically the models know things based on the data that you provide, and if the data that you provide is like biased or like is not a good representation of every parties, then the model will be biased as well. It is not model's fault. It is us that who is providing the data to make not ensuring that we have the good representation. So that is literally the biggest challenge when there are like lots of examples out there that how people extract the biases from these models by asking some specific questions. There are some papers around that out there you can check. But that's why that there are these checks and benchmarks, like when you would like to use a model because you interact with it, you feel that it is good and you want to bring it into your project, but you would like to make sure that it is not biased. So you can go through these kind of checks and like biases and call these things out, basically, like making sure that we are staying the truth to ourselves and making sure that we are providing the right data and right way of building the model. So that is a challenge. It is still being no, it will keep this like being discussed and hopefully when there's more open data, which will bring more fair distribution, things will get better.
Thank you so much for your insightful talk and your dedication to advancing open source technologies. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you.
That was great. But thanks for all the interactions. Thanks for listening to me. And I'm waiting for your discussions in GitHub. So take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Cansu. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I would like to thank our sponsors, Sage Foundation, and Red Hat for their support on making this event possible.